Hey everyone, Moobies here. I just wanted to say a really quick thank you to everyone who tuned into this video. Really appreciate you watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, on with the show. All right. So I have it up here. This is what we're going to be reacting to. I wanted to just kind of preface this a little bit by saying, like, I don't know what to expect in this one. I did watch the Crix one yesterday. I didn't watch it on stream, but I did watch the Crix one. Um, I did really enjoy it. I thought the Crix one was quite good. Um, Although it is a lot of times a lot of the questions that we're going to see, right? They're not going to have answers to. So because they're trying to not, say anything that's going to infringe them. It's kind of like watching most of these are going to probably be watching like a Marvel interview, right? Like with Marvel actors where they're like, well, we can't tell you anything about that yet. We can't tell you. You got to go watch the movie, go play the game, right? Like it's going to be a lot like that. So I think, but we'll get into it and see what happens. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right.
A very different conversation last time about season.
Super loud though. We're gonna turn that down.
Yeah, thank you again for making the time for us. We're
looks
excited to talk
like
all
that
things
looks
Cataclysm
probably
Classic.
a bit better.
First time meeting you, but nice to meet you. How are you?
Hi, it's me, I'm good. I'm good. This is Miss
Look,
Mojo Jojo.
Mojo Jojo. Right, listen. Okay, so I love the cat name. Mojo Jojo. That is fucking awesome. What an awesome. Look, it's just so evil looking too. Look at that shit. Look at that. Looks so angry. I'm gonna get you, all you dumb idiots trying to make my woman tell about Cataclysm she doesn't want to tell. Bitch.
Everyone's welcome to listen to my Cataclysm rants. Do you want to just introduce yourselves, let everyone know what it is that you do for Blizzard?
Sure. So, hi everybody. I'm Clay Stone, Associate Production Director of the
Okay,
World of
Clay.
Warcraft Classic team. Yeah.
I don't know who you are, but now I do.
Hey, I'm Lenny Cook-Samaline. I am a game producer for World of Warcraft Classic team.
Cool. And yeah, I'm Scott. I've played WoW since 2004 and many MMOs before and in between, and started creating content around sort of Classic 2019. And very excited for this period of Classic. Wrath, Kata, Mop, which I'm sorry, but you're going to get me mentioned during this, obviously. And potentially even WOD, which I'm not going to talk about today. I won't keep you too long. Like the questions are fairly straightforward, hopefully, and I'm hoping that we can get lots of information out. But just to sort of break the ice a little bit and start right at the beginning. So in terms of Kata's 5 days away at the time of recording, what was the thought process around like such an increased cadence?
Okay.
And is it something that we expect to see? Assuming, like I said, with Mr. Pandaria, like if we do see Mr. Pandaria, is it something that's likely to continue, or is this like a one-off, want to get through Cataclysm for whatever reason, and how has that come about?
Yeah, so we announced, about a month ago what the patch cadence was going to be like. Something that we committed to up front, way back when we announced Cataclysm at BlizzCon, was that increased speed of the patch cadence. If you look at every other expansion that we've done so far, they have not matched one-to-one the original experience.
I mean, fair. They
for
haven't.
Cataclysm, we feel like in the community discussions that we've had, the expansion as a whole has been rather unfavorably shaded by the length of that final phase in Dragon Soul, which lasted 100%. A little over 10 months.
It was bad.
Frankly, it was just too long. For the vast majority of the player base.
It was far too long,
and that's just simply not something that we want to repeat. When we think about
but like
contemporary
I guess
players,
like when you think about it that way, right? We don't want to repeat Dragon Soul, right? You've increased the patch cadence for the 2 raids that everybody likes, for the raids that everyone has favorable opinions on, and you have not said what you're doing at the end, which is when it went downhill. Right? So to me, this is just a wash, right? Like, I don't give a fuck about your increased cadence for the first 2 raids. I care more about the fact that if you notice that and you're saying, okay, we know that Dragon Soul went on for too long, are you then looking at a way to get new content out after Dragon Soul drops quickly, right? New expansion, new thing, another new raid for Kata, whatever it is. Are they looking at doing better content at the end of Cata to increase the cadence then when it was the worst from retail? That's my question, and I think it's really silly that like they go down this path of saying we need to increase the cadence of the other raids without actually addressing the issue at hand. You know, I think it's dumb.
The players who are playing our game today, even if they played way back in the day, 2014, when 14 years ago, 2010, when Cataclysm originally launched, they have figured the game out. They are incredibly skilled, communicate incredibly well, and can rush through content super fast.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not the entirety of the player base, but we do recognize that a contemporary player, they want to move along at a speedier cadence. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with Cataclysm.
Guess.
Now, that being said,
I guess we want to move along faster. I don't know. It feels weird. Feels weird, man. I don't know that that's true. Yeah, I agree. Feels weird, man. That's like, I understand like that maybe the way Wrath played out had a factor in this because, even guilds like us who are like a semi-hardcore guild, right? Like we did 3 splits a week in TOGC, right? We did 3 splits in ICC, and like we were doing these, in Ulduar, and we were doing them for a long time. So it still is a little like you could say that like they're trying to make it so those splits are more like if you're actually doing splits, they're going to be more worthwhile because even in like how long the phases were in Wrath, even people not doing splits, the majority of their raids were like 80-90% bis, right? Didn't see those trinkets or you didn't see like that one item, but like I feel like even people that were raiding like old gods, like they were still comparable in gear with us coming out of TOGC, right? And they were 1 raid. So we had a leg up because we were all full bis, right? But they were still comparable. So I think this is kind of like the combat of that. Like it's saying the guilds that raid once a week, you guys can get up to like 50 to 70% of your bis, whereas the guilds that actually do splits will still get what they're trying to do, right? Because we were raiding TOGC with like a bunch of people that were already full bis. So I don't know. I think Firelands is going to do the same thing in Cata, though, right? I think Firelands is going to do the same thing. Woo, that was loud. Yo, Emilia Zoe, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it.
We would never want to get into a spot where we are taking something away that players are having fun with.
Okay.
And if it turns out that Firelands is not lasting long enough, everybody's having a blast in it, there's no reason why we should rush to Dragon Soul. So, we're going to take things as
I will say that's promising, right? Saying we're okay with pushing Dragon Soul out a few months because Firelands is so well received, right? But if Firelands becomes this thing where you need to run it while Dragon Soul is going on so you can get your legendaries and things like that, it might get to be more like Ulduar, where it's like, oh, we're dragging on doing fucking Firelands again. We still got to do Firelands and Dragon Soul till the end. And then it's a lot, right?
As they go, we'll
delicate
adjust
balance
if necessary. I love that we put that patch cadence out there so players could talk about it, could respond to it, we could hear their feedback on it. But it's not set in stone if we have to make changes. And then when we think to the future, if we were ever to do something like a Mob Classic, we recognize that it's a very beloved expansion, and again, going back to my note about Firelands or even our first raids here for Cataclysm, if players are having fun, we want to let things breathe. There's no reason why we should rush through something if players are having fun with it. Lenny,
ultimately, we're all here to have fun. We all have different parts of the expansion that we found most exciting, and
they both wearing Deathwing t-shirts? Are they both wearing? I think they are. I think they're both wearing Deathwing t-shirts.
Make sure everybody has time to just be in those parts.
Okay, that's really interesting, actually. So what we're saying, really, with the patch cadence that we've seen, that's almost like, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but that's almost like we're burning through the content. You guys are like, well, we did say, this is when it's going to launch, whereas if you start to see, a lot of guilds, let's say a majority of guilds have not cleared the content, it's not like, well, unlucky, Firelands is coming now, or unlucky, Dragon Soul's coming now. So it's like definitely not set in stone. We could potentially have a longer cadence than what it looks like we're going to get at the moment.
Yeah, we wouldn't go any faster. There'd be no way we would go any faster than what we've already announced.
Okay.
And we're fortunate enough to be able to look
I
at
like
the data,
that. I like
see
that.
the progression rates, see how many guilds have cleared, and then kind of be able to set a schedule or a roadmap based on that, but also be able to adjust if we need to.
Okay, that's super interesting, because that's going to tie in nicely to a couple of other questions, actually.
Okay.
So
what do you got?
So I know you can't really, like, you never have, like, throughout Classic, which I'm gonna say this is a negative, all right, but I'm like in a constructive way. The fact that you're not just going to openly say yes, MOP Classic's coming, because, like, who knows what's going to be going on in a year's time, 18 months time, whenever it is. But I feel like if we kind of knew further, and there was a bit of that assurance that you've got your character. We're not going anywhere. Classic's not going anywhere. Your character's going to be fine. It's going to move on. But people, when Cataclysm has always been one of those, oh, do I want to play it? Don't I want to play it? It could get those people that want to play MOP on board to get some character investment in before MOP comes. That's not a question. That's just an observation from me. When it's like, when we was playing vanilla, it was like, there's no way they're going to do TBC. When we was playing TBC, there's no way they're going to do Wrath. Then obviously everyone was like, there's no way you're going to do Kata, and now we're here. So I feel like there is a bit of a loss of getting people getting them playing an expansion they might not necessarily be that excited for, because they know what's coming down the road. The actual question was, with the increased cadence, though, is there any worry that history could repeat itself in the fact that where we get to a point and then it's like, I don't know whether MOP's come in and we do end up sitting in Dragon Soul for an extended period of time? Or
Scotty J asking the hard questions, baby. Let's go.
You've already got plans that, like, that just flat out won't happen. Like, even if it's not MOP, you know that Dragon Soul is going to last a reasonable amount of time without it outstaying its welcome.
We're not going to keep you in Dragon Soul for 10 months. We promise. There's always something cool, new, and exciting happening on the Classic side of things. So definitely there'll be something cool to do. And we're not announcing anything today, but I mean, everybody loves Mist of Pandaria. It was a really fun expansion overall.
They're going to do Mist.
And there's also a lot of really cool different places we can go on Classic.
I mean, I feel like it's almost inevitable, like, with the way these questions are being framed and the way they're 9 months, 28 days later, where Dragon Soul is done. Yeah, not 10 months. Woo. I think the way the question is being framed, like, they don't really have a choice, because at this point we're 3 expansions in, right? Like, people want to know. Like, you've said this. Wrath was almost 2 years, right? Wrath was like a year and 8 months for 4 phases, and they're trying to do Kata in, like, maybe just over a year, where everything gets done. So it's like, by this time next year, Dragon Soul will be out and Prague will be over. So, like, what is next? And, like, I like that they're not denying it. They're not denying MOP Classic. They're like, you'll have something to do. It would be cool for them to just say, like, hey, yeah, after that, we're looking at doing MOP Classic. If you guys feel like there are some other things you want to see, right? Some other expansions or some other content, right? Like, let us know. Like, this is what we're planning on doing, but we aren't sure if it's the right path, right? That's the kind of communication that, like, would really help the player base, I think, go a long way. Let's see what they say here.
I would challenge a little bit about what you said with Cataclysm. Something that has been so wonderful to see as we've gotten closer and closer to Cataclysm has really been this wave of people rediscovering it and rediscovering how many wonderful things there are in this expansion.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
Level 1 to 60 content, which is brand new for Cataclysm, that many people who played 14 years ago never experienced, because they just rolled with their Wrath characters right into the launch content in those 5 new zones. And so as we've gotten closer and closer, we've found that people who played it back in the day and people who've never jumped in take the plunge into Cataclysm and really discover just how special it truly is. And it's going
Okay.
to be really
I mean, yeah,
exciting
it
when
is
we
a pretty
actually
special
launch
expansion. I will agree with that.
1885 content. We're able to unlock that for this whole new set of players to either rediscover or jump into for the first time as well. So I don't know. This wave of excitement and enthusiasm, it's a fantastic time to get to be a part of it, and especially on the classic team to get to see in the community. And we're excited to jump in with the rest of them as soon as the expansion goes live.
It was really cool. Also, after we announced this at BlizzCon, just the amount of people who reached out and were like, hey, I love Cataclysm. I'm really excited. And people who may not have played some of the earlier versions
They use the
of
same.
Classic,
They use
but
the
started
same like
playing
tactic in the
Cataclysm,
Crix
they're like,
interview,
This is my nostalgia hit. This is my moment. Let's go.
where they
What
talked
I've
about the
seen
nostalgia
is,
and
like
stuff.
a really good thing to see is
Fine,
a
I
lot of people
guess.
that just misremembered Kata. Like where they've been like, I'm not playing Kata, and then they've gone on the beta or they're playing the pre-patch now, and they're like, oh, I thought it was where the talents changed to where they was MOP, where you had a choice between the tiers. I thought, you know, like the world being destroyed was a really bad thing, when actually the questing experience from 1 to 60.
It was at least
like,
8.
I'm sorry, I'm not much of a vanilla
People
fanboy.
that
Like,
said
I'm
they
all
were
for
excited for Kata. At least 8.
Post Cataclysm zones anyway. Like the 1 to 60 leveling experience is amazing, and I love the fact that there's people I personally know who was like, "There's no way I'm going to play Kata," are now hooked because they tried it and they're like, "I don't know what I was remembering, but it weren't this."
And you know, we talk about it all the time, but we're so fortunate to have so many different offerings on Classic now. 2023 was a phenomenal year with the launch of Hardcore and then Season of Discovery. We still have our Classic era realms, and now we're moving into Cataclysm. All of those experiences are still there. You can still go visit the old world in these other experiences that we have.
I mean,
The next one
That's
is
fine.
like, I kind of feel like I know how it works, but I'd really like clarification from yous around the raid system in general. So the thing that's confused a lot of people, even though we can go on the beta, I was raid testing last night till very, very late, and we can kind of get an idea of exactly how it works. For those that are not on the beta and not doing the raid testing, it used to be, in original Cataclysm, it was classed as a flexible raid system, and then when the announcement went out, it was I can't remember what it was initially titled, but then it got changed. It got edited into a boss-based raid lockout system, which is really open to interpretation. Is it just the same Cataclysm raid lockout system that we're used to with a new name?
Yeah, it sure is. It's exactly like the same system that we had initially, and it's what you guys are currently playing on the beta.
Perfect. Just
So
wanted to
definitely miscommunication around that on our end.
Okay.
It was more like the way we was like, you know.
So, I mean, I might have fell through this part of the video, but like, yeah. So exactly what we anticipated for raid lockouts is going to be just what it is, right? You can only do one raid a week, right? Whether it's heroic 10-man, heroic 25, you cannot do normal and heroic. Once you kill a boss on whatever difficulty you killed it on, it's dead for that character for the week. I mean, it's fine, but I don't know. It's like, I guess it makes sense from this fact that there is the same loot drops in 10-man and on 25, right? There's just more of it on 25. Same eye level, everything, right? Even for heroics, you still get 372. You still get the same pieces, the same trinkets, everything, right? So you could still get the same gear across the board. So it makes sense that you can't really double up, right? But I like raiding. So I'm a little sad that I can't like go in with my 10 buddies after we do our 25 man and just fuck shit up, you know? A little sad, but you know, it is what it is.
You know, some of us who have played pretty much every expansion, you know, from 2004 to now, was like boss-based raid lockout system kind of sounds a bit like MOP, where you can repeatedly do the raids, but you only get loot from each boss once. It could be the original Kata system. You know, obviously once the beta went up, like the raids went up on the beta, it was very quick to work out exactly, you know, how it was. But yeah, just wanted some clarification, just in case it was different when it goes live to what it is on the beta.
Sometimes you try to describe something a little bit better, and then you realize that the original description actually worked best. So, yeah, thank you for asking. I'm glad that we could clarify that.
Well, the problem is, you know, in future expansions past Kata, we then get flexible raids. So it's like, it was called a flexible raid lockout system, then we got flexible raids. So, like, it was all confusing anyway when it really...
Yeah,
with us
a little
going
bit.
through, well, it's thrown a little bit because of the first comment of, you know, the cadence, even though that's, you know, the fastest possible it's going to be, it could slow down. Assuming we was to stick to the cadence that's sort of been set out, is there any sort of thoughts around the amount of loot, like the loot acquisition in general in raids, like, you know, increasing the amount of loot, maybe adding new ways?
You haven't noticed,
and
Scotty?
New ways, maybe
Is he just asking the
recycling
question
ways
just
like
to
you
ask
did
it?
with Wrath of the Lich King, with putting in Sidereal Essence and Scourge Stones, you know, taking that sort of thinking to be able to get those bits that you miss from tier 11 when you go into tier 12. You know, is there any thoughts around generally just being able to get geared up, ready for the next level of progress?
Yeah, so this is something that we hope to put out communication about soon. We've been discussing a lot about.
So they don't have like a
conflict
finalized
points, valor
plan
points,
for
the
this.
cap.
They don't have a finalized plan for what the loot is going to be. Like right now, what we're seeing on the beta is probably not, or it might be, but they haven't announced that is what it's going to be.
The rate of accumulation, I would expect some comms to go out about that pretty quick in advance of launch. So some changes there. I would also say that depending on
you got like 5 days, bro.
Players progressing through this content and how quickly they're receiving their drops. You could look at what we did towards the end of Wrath in changing some of the drop rates, and potentially see us make some changes there as well. That I don't have much more to say on right now.
What?
But
Wait. I lost for a second.
Depending on the pace that we see players progressing through this content and how quickly they're receiving their drops, you could look at what we did towards the end of Wrath in changing some of the drop rates, and potentially see us make some changes there as well. That I don't have much more to say on right now, but that is something that we are very cognizant of. There's trickiness there because we have to get it just right. We don't want too many people. We don't want to put it out into the entire player base so everybody gets everything super quick and then, you know, has a little bit of fun with it, but then has a whole bunch of time to wait until the end because we want it to feel special. We still want it to feel special and meaningful.
And I get that it's a delicate balance between what you're trying to do there with loot. Because if it's too slow, then not everyone gets what they wanted. If it just goes too fast, then everybody gets it all, and then it doesn't feel right, and it's like then you're just burning the candle at both ends. So he's right. It is a tricky situation.
There's certainly some trickiness there involved with tuning it just right, but that is absolutely something that we are looking to do, depending on what we see.
Okay, so part of that there, you mentioned a Valor Point cap. So have you got anything that you can share on that? Because it did go, I know you'll know, but obviously it went through various iterations in original Cata. It started at 1250, went to 980, and then ended on 1000. Is there any reason, I've done the maths, so I can reel the numbers off to you, but is there any reason to have that artificial cap anyway? Because the one thing I'll say that feels really bad is if you've got the 1k cap and you're getting 150 from each random and you can do that 7 times a week, you're already losing 50 points from doing your 7th random heroic. But then when you start raiding and you're doing raid bosses, if you're not actually getting loot from the bosses, at least in Wrath, even in TBC, you would get emblems or you would get, justice points now, well, valor points now. But obviously if you've capped doing random heroics, and you don't get loot from the boss, you're not actually even getting any sort of little token reward that you can then put towards getting loot. Whereas, so that would essentially be the hard cap. 13 bosses, and just 7 random heroics. I kind of don't see the reason for there being a cap at all, especially with this cadence. I don't know what your thoughts are around that.
Yeah, I would say, when it comes to the cap, it's tricky because we want to represent some of the systems as they existed back in the original day of Cataclysm and make adjustments to them that befit the cadence that we are going at, while also allowing players to be able to get the things that they want to get and not have feel bad moments. Our hope is that we're able to assign a new cap that's able to help with that. Granted, when we do put these comms out, we want to hear thoughts and opinions on it. If it's still the case that people would just...
Why are you not putting the comms out and telling people in the interview so that we have more time to give you feedback?
I to hear about it as well. It doesn't mean that we are locked into these changes. We can continue to make additional adjustments.
Yeah, of course you
Well,
can.
I
You're the
worked out
devs.
The hard, like, obviously having a hard cap of, like, say 4K, you know, obviously that's cool. But, you know, if you literally didn't have a soft cap in place, like that weekly cap, you can only get 1,635. So you would technically be getting about 400-ish, like, extra than what we would have back in sort of tier 11 of Cata originally, which an extra 400 a week, speeding up the rate that you're going to be able to get your tier and trinkets and stuff like that. I don't know, it seems like a good idea to me. I didn't even want to ask you a question. I just wanted to pitch you that.
Like, I mean, that's a great point from Scotty too. Like, unless, like, why would you schedule interviews knowing the questions are going to be asked, knowing you have to plan for these answers, and then you're just like, well, we don't have them. We don't have that information yet, right? And even Scotty is correct, right? Like, if you implement instead of doing it that you could do the heroics, just 7 times and hit the cap, right? It's now daily, right? So you get the reward once a day for Valor, and you get it 7 days a week, and then you also accrue Valor from raids. He's right. 1650 is the amount of Valor that you would get in a week, right? That's the maximum amount. So it's not like it's that much more, but it allows you to buy like a single piece of heroic tier in 1 week, right? And if the raids aren't open week 1, the most you can get is what, 1050, right? So it's 50 VP over in the first week, right? It would kind of hurt my plan, right, with the launch, with trying to do heroics early, but that's fine. I'd rather us be able to get more in a week than have to try to spam 7 in a day to get my heroics done. You know, it feels better to have it spaced out overall. So like, I really hope they make some sort of change, and I really like Scotty's idea here. I think it's a very smart and very thought out idea that would really help the community, especially with the patch cadence.
I appreciate it. I mean, honestly, I really do appreciate it. This is the kind of feedback and discussion that we want to hear.
Cool. Okay. And then I've got to ask, even though I'm guessing this is going to be part of the comms that goes out, there's 2 things that was announced at BlizzCon. You know, so all the way back at BlizzCon, we've had beta, we've done beta testing raids, battled the blues, which I don't know if in the RBG if either of you were there cheating against our RBG team, but whatever. I mean, I won't hold it against you.
I think they're getting wrecked, honestly, because I'm terrible at PvP. I was totally there. You probably
I don't think Lenny was cheating. Just to be clear, I don't think Lenny was cheating.
It wasn't. It wasn't everyone.
Yeah,
not everyone was cheating.
killed.
Yeah, it was fun. It was still fun.
The flying shit in the RPGs.
You know, we've been through all of that, and there's
fun.
still 2 things from BlizzCon we've had no sort of real information about. That's like Heroic Plus. So it was mentioned about Titan Rune dungeons. I'm guessing Titan Rune don't really fit into Cataclysm, so I'm guessing it would be something else potentially. And the streamlined auction house. Like, we've all got our guesses at what the streamlined auction house could be, but have you got any information on what it actually is and when we can expect it?
Yeah, then go ahead and tackle the Titan Rune Dungeons question. Again, yeah, Titan Rune Dungeons were something that were really cool to be able to put into Wrath. It also, like, really helped fill this purpose of keeping dungeons relevant throughout Wrath Classic, and also just providing a really good catch-up mechanic. So we would love to assess what the needs are in Cataclysm and create something cool that will really match that.
So,
and there's so many really cool dungeons in Cataclysm that we would be able to kind of potentially play off of.
So this answer, she answered this the exact same way, because Crix asked about this too. She answered this in the exact same way. Like, I'm sorry, what? Like, hold on. I'm trying to put this into words, because you announced that there's going to be something with the dungeons, right? At BlizzCon, it's been all over the website. You guys are doing something with dungeons, right? And now you guys are saying we are still looking into what those are going to be 5 days before launch, 3 months before ZA and ZG come out? And you don't know what you're going to do with the dungeons yet? Excuse me? It's it just kind of speaks to the fact that Cataclysm just really feels like it hasn't been given as much attention as it needs, and that's just sad to me, right? Like, you're this far into into development and you don't know what it is, right? You can't say like, oh, well, we have something in mind and we know what it's going to be, and you guys are going to be really excited about this new thing that we're doing, and give a little hint, right? And just be like, this is, maybe you'll like it if it's more Deathwing stuff. And like, I don't know, whatever. But like, give a little hint. That'd be a cool ass thing to do. Like, I think that would have been a really great answer to this. But to sit here and say, well, like, we don't really know what it is yet, and we're still working on it. Like, guys, you should have just fixed your beta 3 months ago when we told you the frickin' bugs.
Again, like with Titan Rune Dungeons, those didn't end up showing up until I think like the first patch of Wrath. And it'd be the same kind of thing. We would look into potentially putting something in a little bit later in our process.
Potentially. When we think about that, we love to find ways for players to run alts and be able to catch up with those alts using more challenging content. And we love being able for players who, let's say, didn't jump in right at the start of Cataclysm to be able to come in and catch up with their friends and creating solutions for that. That being said, the gear progression of Cataclysm is actually pretty good, especially thanks to the Zandalari heroic dungeons, which come a little bit after launch.
So
we don't want to put something in that solves a problem that doesn't exist, which could then just potentially create more problems. So nothing more to discuss on for that today, but it is something that we are constantly thinking about. If players,
I don't know the backstory of Scotty's Titan Rune system. I don't
have more ideas for ways that, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great for me to be able to run this type of challenging content and be able to gear up that alt faster that is separate than what already exists in the game? We want to hear about it.
We love ideas and feedback.
Yeah.
The second half of your question was around the auction house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my mind got lost on. So for the auction house, this is something that we're working on. If we go back in Wrath, we made some changes to the way the auction house worked. There were some different sorting options, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What we're talking about now is certainly a little bit more substantial and that sort of thing. Because we're working on it, I don't have anything more to announce on that front. But I would ask, based on the community discussion that we've seen out there, something like the mainline auction house or the modern auction house, is that something you would be interested in coming to the classic space?
Yeah, I mean, I use an add-on that makes the auction house similar enough to retail or modern WoW.
I don't even know what the auction house looks on retail.
I couldn't obviously say that that's what everybody wants. The one thing I would have liked to have seen personally, which again, you can't please everyone, I'm going to say this and it's going to annoy somebody, is
and then goes on to say, like, well, what would you like if it was
like,
retail?
We've got all these one-sided servers. There's, if you start on a predominantly Horde server as Alliance, you literally can't buy anything on the auction house. So actually having the auction house cross-faction would be the one thing that I'd personally like to see done to auction houses, just to help those really one-sided servers. Outside of that, what it looks like, I've got to be honest with you, it's not something... I'm more worried about raids and getting gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually one of the cool things we've been able to explore a little bit with Kata is just finding spots where there's good quality of life changes we can do. That doesn't change the overall feel of it, but will hopefully just make things a little bit easier for players. Stuff like adding the collections and adding the transmogs in there.
I do want to move on, but just briefly, just about Heroic Plus again. Would you ever put any thought into it of actually having harder content? Not even necessarily dungeons, could be raids or even scaled up raids from, like Karazhan. Scaling Karazhan up, it's really difficult to put into words because you don't want to ruin the flow of progression, gear progression in Kata. Like Clay said, it is actually really good. And the fact that when the new tier comes out, all the Valor gets converted.
You guys are in the chat here talking about P servers, and like, I mean, this is a Blizzard sanctioned private server. Yes, Classic is a Blizzard sanctioned private server. That's pretty much all Classic is. So, you're saying that's why they do the cross faction? I mean, I think retail does cross faction too. So like that might be something we get right in Canada because it is already in the game. So
back to Justice, and now you can buy all of that gear with Justice points. So like that's your catch-up Justice, and now you can buy all of that gear with Justice points. So like that's your catch-up mechanic in straight away. The fact that you can just spam 5-man random heroics and get the gear anyway from the vendor. So it would be more like prestigious items, like, you know, with gold challenge modes. I didn't want to say gold challenge modes because everyone thinks the same thing, but you know, everybody loved gold challenge modes. So having more, like adding content, but without it necessarily having to give you player power.
Oh, we don't have any plans currently or anything to announce, but like that's a really cool idea. Especially when there's chances to revisit some of the really amazing older content that we've had.
We don't have any plans or any anything to announce right now. Literally every answer is just that.
Wow.
I'd love to see Karazhan at level 85. Just putting it out there. If you'd done that, you'd make my dreams come true. So
I would honestly, Scotty, I'm with you.
One of my favorite things in WoW.
I'm with you, dude. Karazhan at
balancing and changing, changes
sick.
in general. So you know, there's the big ones that everyone always focuses on in Wrath was the Rep Paladins and Feral Druids. But obviously there was far more than that that's happened in Wrath. You know, Gargoyle snapshotting. You know, just as another example outside of actually adding things to the game. Like, can we expect quite a hands-on approach at trying to keep a little bit of balance, or at least help the classes that are really underperforming, like you've done in Wrath?
They asked this question.
Quite happy with the way things are? Because I mean, I must admit, just in the beta testing I've been doing with an experienced group of people, you know, it's quite clear what classes are going to get stacked already.
You know, we've talked about the development process and how we develop these classic expansions at length as far back as 2017, 2018. We start with that final balance patch for Cataclysm. I think it was 4.3.2 was the final class balance patch that came out. Mm-hmm. We start from there, we work backwards, and it's interesting to see like that class balance exist in the pre-patch state that we've been existing in the lead up to Cataclysm, and how things work within that space. I would say generally we're happy with where we're starting from, but if you look at what we did with Wrath to try to make really targeted changes where we were hearing the greatest amounts of feedback, I would expect us to do something similar for Cataclysm as well. Okay.
I mean, I feel like that's any live service game. You're gonna need to balance it as you go along, based upon you find things like they found with Gargoyle snapshotting, right? Like that wasn't really a thing in original Wrath. People didn't know they could do that, or they did and they couldn't do it well because of modern technology and everything like that, right? So it made sense now that we have the technology and people have the weak auras and everything like that to be able to get the high snapshots and do the crazy damage, right? That it made sense to do that, right? And it made sense that now that people are playing at such a higher level, right? And like Feral Druids and Rep Paladins were so low to give them a boost, right? Some of them might have been too much. I think realistically, I think both Ret and Feral getting the boost that they did kind of. I don't think Ret should have gotten buffed personally, because they have so much utility. I thought they were still, even in ICC, they were still one of the top DP. They were still a top DPS, even with Shadowmourne in ICC. Like, people were complaining about them in the earlier phases, and it's like they are so useful. They have either Aura Mastery or Divine Guardian. They have Bop. They have Hand of Freedom. They have all of this utility that's really good for your raid, and you bring one of them to make sure you have a correct buff, because Arcane sucks, right? And you always have one, right? So, like, I don't know. Feral made sense, but it just maybe they picked the wrong thing to do for Feral, because it made it so that Feral was like top damage in ICC, which is kind of lame, but yeah.
Discussion already, literally, entire YouTube videos and things like that focus solely on specific classes that I know you've done as well. Those are certainly insightful and help us see where the community is really focused on potential imbalance issues. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, and it is our desire to continue to make targeted class changes where it makes sense.
Okay, we've got a few minutes, so should we quick fire? You don't need to go into too much detail, just yes, no. Chaos Orbs, are they going to be bind on pickup?
We're going to be going Uh, yeah, they will be bind on pickup, going back to how they initially were, and with the potential to adjust them throughout
Lame, 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 lame.
throughout the milestones.
Awesome. Gathering XP, currently not working on the beta. Are we expecting that to work in 5 days' time?
Yes, it should actually be currently on the beta and on live.
Oh, okay. I tested it on
As
the
of, like,
beta.
yesterday,
I was going to say I tested it yesterday, so it's probably after I've
Okay.
actually tested it. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Disenchant button that was like originally put in Wrath, and we haven't had it, and I know that's like a bit of a some like it, some don't. Could we expect to see it in Cata?
We're looking into that and kind of discussing that right now.
Profession cooldowns. Any with the increased cadence, do we expect to see any profession cooldowns removed when they should be there, or reduced, or it's going to be how it was originally?
No plans to change that currently.
Okay.
Dark Moon Fair. Now, Dark Moon Fair is not scheduled to start until after the raids open, and some of us really, really want our trinkets. Any chance of bringing Dark Moon Fair forward a week so we can get our trinkets before raid progress starts?
That is an awesome idea, and yes, we are talking about doing that. Having Dark Moon Fair come out, I guess would be the Sunday before, so you'll have some time leading into the raid in the first couple days of the raid.
That's a big win.
That is a big win. That is a big win.
We can leave it there. No, a couple more while we've got time. LFR, yes or no?
Not currently planning, no.
No.
Oh, Clay, did you want to?
Nope, nothing else. You named it. Sorry, we're doing rapid fire. We're doing rapid fire.
Solo queue arenas.
Something. No plans right now.
But possibly, so it's not like an absolute no, just if there's enough demand for it.
There would have to be enough demand, and we prioritize that over the other things that we're working on. That's the trade-off that we're always looking at.
Right, okay. What about bringing back Zolaman and Zolgurub like you did with Onyxia, where you speak to an NPC and you can do the original Onyxia? Any plans on that?
That is that's actually, we haven't really discussed that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Something we could take back to the team for sure. That would be really cool to be able to do. But no, we don't have any plans for that now.
Well, I'm out of questions. Thank you. That was
I'm
amazing.
out of questions.
Really.
That's a great way to end an interview, Scotty. Oh, I'm out of questions. That is a great. That actually made that's
really,
awesome.
I mean, the Dark Moon Fair one. Of all of that, I'm like, yes. I was praying that you was going to say, yeah, we'll be able to get our trinkets because, yeah, that's pretty huge for some classes. So.
Yeah, trinkets are really big.
That too.
That is really big for us too, for
with,
sure.
With where we're at and everything. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. It's awesome. We're nearly there. The launch is right around the corner on Monday the 20th. It's I know I already talked about it earlier, but it's just been so exciting to see the enthusiasm and positivity really ramp up. Players just seem extremely excited as we are to be able to jump in there. So thank you.
Cool. All right. Just as a last thing here, I mean, yes, I am very excited about Cataclysm. I really wish that there was more information in these interviews. I really wish that they were able to answer some of these questions. It feels a lot, like I said earlier in this video, like on the stream, I feel like it's like I'm watching a Marvel interview with like a movie that hasn't come out yet, where it's like, does this character die? Well, we can't tell you that. You need to go watch it. And it's like, I get from that perspective, it makes sense. But dude, we're asking about a game. Like, that's like, you guys should have had this stuff done. Like, this stuff should be done already, ready to go. Like, you're 5 days from launch, and you can't answer basic questions about, like, this certain thing is coming, how this thing is going to work. You have no idea what the heroic dungeons are going to look like post 4.1, right? You don't even know. You announced that you're going to do something, and now you're like, well, we're not really sure we're even going to do that. Like, what? Right? The Streamlined Auction House. It's 5 days to launch, guys. 5 days. I want to be able to hold the devs accountable, right? I want to be nice, and I just feel like they need to be held accountable for, like, or Blizzard, maybe not even the devs, because maybe it was just a scheduling thing, maybe it was a leadership issue. Like, it just was like Cataclysm felt like it got put on the back burner for far too long. Now, was that because of Season of Discovery? Was that because of any other thing, or classic or hardcore, or the development of this thing or development of that thing, right? Or the team is too small, right? Who knows? It could be just a Blizzard issue, right? But the reality of it is the game's not finished. They're still working on stuff they're going to be working on stuff up until the day of launch. We're going to get hot fixes nearly every day. And I'm hyped to do the raids. I'm hyped to do the beta. I'm hyped to do these videos and these streams. It's fun. I'm enjoying my time with the game, but I just wish there was more communication from the devs regarding what's happening with the game and why we had such a short beta and why these things weren't getting fixed when we were telling you guys stuff was broken for months. You know, that's what I want to hear, right? Give me solace in that. But anyway, that's all I got for this.